information rebroadcast system. The broadcast is of the internet in voluntary cooperation with the NOAA authority and developed this system to keep you informed in the event of an emergency.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a special WrestleRage Cast. I'm your host, JD Rage. I'm pulling a lone cast here tonight. For those of you who have listened to our show before, you may know I have a co-host. His name is J.A. Liberty. I want to give a shout out to him. He's out of the country right now on a family matter, so we wish him the best and hope things are going good for him, and we'll hopefully see you back here on the show in due time. Your seat is always open, even though it might be being kept warm by someone else, but when you come back, your seat's all yours. Speaking of shout-outs, I want to give a shout-out to Brian and Gerald. They're the ones who got me wanting to do a podcast. Basically, how that started was I won an online auction to guest host a podcast they do, and since then I've always wondered, well, why have a Facebook page when I can do my own podcast? I mean, they used to be on Podbean, but I think they've moved to YouTube full-time. So if anyone is interested in their podcast, their YouTube channel is IWPC316. I'll go over that again. IWPC316, that's short for International Wrestling Podcast. And then IWPC316 is all one word. So, I mean, they know what they're doing. They're not some random people who think they know wrestling just because they've watched it for 2 days and they call themselves a fan. They do a good show. Thank you guys, and if there's anything at all we can do to help, just let us know. And speaking of YouTube, WrestleRage is now on YouTube. Our channel name is WrestleRage, all one word, Cast. I went on there before I went on the air to try to find us to make sure I had everything right on there. If you're having trouble finding us on YouTube, our podcasts are just a still photo with our podcast audio, and the still picture we have is of a fist with a red glow around it and the words live, breathe, wrestle. There's a red glow around live and breathe, and there's black letters for wrestle. And if you're having problems finding our channel, just contact me on Facebook or Twitter. My Facebook and Twitter handles for Facebook and Twitter are JMAN61828, all one word. Or you can contact me at jman61828@yahoo.com. Which leads me to the reason of the podcast. And for those of you who haven't heard yet, Paul Bearer passed away. He passed away about 5 p.m. Tuesday night, and I found out through Facebook. And when I found out, someone had posted that someone from a radio station had called in with the news of his passing, and nothing was confirmed as of then. And I went to a few sites, and nothing was being said about his passing yet. So about an hour later is when news became more frequent when it broke. The only thing I've heard about it on the cause of his passing was that he hadn't been feeling well for quite some time, and he had pulled himself from some bookings he had over the next month or so. And so far, that's all I know. This is pulled from WrestlingHeadlines.com or LordsOfPain.net, which I think is the same site. So, I mean, it just comes as a shock, as do a lot of deaths, not in just wrestling, but just life in general, whether if it's sports, personal life, Hollywood, music. Just when there's a death like this to the fans, it's painful. But yet, the ones that are closest to the person that has passed, it just has to be that much more worse. I mean, this world's lost so many people that's had fame status that everyone just seems to hurt like a whole. I mean, just look at some of the wrestlers that have died in the past. You know, Owen Hart, Luna, Brian Pillman, British Bulldog, Chris Candido, Jack Briscoe, Benoit, Guerrero, Gorilla Monsoon, Canyon, Junkyard Dog, John Pitta, Joey Morella. Just whether if they've died from a natural cause, suicide, at old age, a car accident, or something like that. Not everyone was or it's a fan of theirs, but it just still hurts knowing that they're gone. I've been a wrestling fan since I was about 3 or 4, so about 1991, 92, somewhere in that range. And back then I knew of the deaths of Andre the Giant and Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado, but those really didn't affect me because I guess I was just too young to realize what was going on. And then in 97, Brian Pillman died, and that really didn't affect me that much either, but to my memory, the first one that really affected me was Owen Hart. And the night he died, it was Over the Edge, 99, and I remember listening to the pay-per-view. Yeah, I said listening, because I would never order the pay-per-views, and the channel that the pay-per-views were on was scrambled, but you could still hear the sound pretty well. And so then it got to the part where Jim Ross said something along the lines of, "We have big problems," and I had changed the channel or something like that, or walked out of my room or something, and a few minutes later came back in, then changed to another channel or whatever I was doing, and I'd missed that whole part of where it shows the crowd and then talking about what happened. And I think the following match was Jeff Jarrett's match. Then after that, I believe they had announced Owen had died, and I didn't know it at the time because I had flipped the channels during that time span. And so then the next morning, I woke up, and that's when I had heard Owen had died, and that one hit me hard. Heck, being 3rd grade and crying all day, I just really hit home. And I still tear up whenever I hear or see something about him. And that's sort of like the same thing that happened with Eddie's death. Someone at school mentioned he died, and I just thought they were bullshitting me, and but I got home from school, and sure enough, he had passed. And see, that's another thing. Eddie's death really didn't have an effect on me either. I know I cried during his tribute during Raw, but other than that, that's about it. It just really didn't have as big an effect on me as Owen did. The other one that really affected me was Benoit's death, and I know I'm going to get criticized a lot for that, but I know some people have been on the fence about his death, on whether he did or did not kill his wife and son than himself. I wasn't there, so I have no idea what did or did not happen, and that's going to be an ongoing argument, until there's concrete proof of what happened rather than just theories, opinions, or hearsay. And see, that always is going to lead to this debate on whether or not Benoit deserves to be in the Hall of Fame or not. And yet again, I've heard and seen yes, and I've heard and seen no. Yes for his career in the ring, and no for what happened to him and his family. And people say regardless of what he did or didn't do to his family, he needs to be inducted, based on his in-ring career. And then people have also said, well, no, for what he done to his family and himself, nullifies him ever getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, so don't expect it to happen. Like I said, I'm going to catch hell for this, but for his in-ring career, he should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I know the Benoit topic is a little bit further than this, but look at the Von Erich family. I know they were inducted into the Hall of Fame as a family, but look at Kerry, Mike, and Chris, and they all committed suicide, and they're in the Hall of Fame. I know, like I said, they're a little bit different than Benoit's case, but still, I don't know, I just think he should be inducted on his career. And it's also said that there are people who are heading down the wrong path in life, and they get help and they turn things around and they end up doing great afterwards. But then there's some who never find themselves and end up too far down the path before it's too late, and which I credit DDP for this. I mean, as soon as Diamond Dallas Page has started this yoga program, and I've heard it's amazing and actually works, and it's done wonders for people. And I mean, I've heard it helped Jake Roberts out a great deal, and which leads me to a video I seen online not too long ago, not the last month or so. And DDP had gotten a hold of Scott Hall, and the video shows DDP and Jake trying to get Scott Hall to come to DDP's house for help, and Scott Hall says something like, "I just want to die," and Jake says something that is almost, the honest to God truth. Jake says, "No, too many people love us," or something along that line, which in my mind I feel is 100% true. I mean, people get that rock star following, and they have other people rather than just friends and relatives who adore them, and if something happens to them, everyone else hurts with them rather than just the ones close to them. Glad there's people out there like DDP who actually put forth the time and effort to help someone else out rather than just look at them and say, "Oh, you got yourself here, why should I be inclined to help you out?" Anyone can lose anyone or anything at any given time. I mean, I know this has been a more serious and emotional podcast and probably one of our shortest, and it's also probably not the best since it's been based around death, but I guess you all get to just see a different side of me rather than the person you've heard, do a couple podcasts here and there, crack a joke, or even laugh and maybe talk about the bright side of a world I love, and that's obviously pro wrestling, but it's just kind of mind-numbing to, love something so much, then someone is taken away from you so unexpectedly that you, I guess, don't realize how different it's going to be without that person around until something drastic like this happens. It's just hard to fathom and hard to get over. Anyways, as of right now, Paul Bearer has one of the best seats in the house now with everyone else who's left us too early. And for everyone who has passed, good or bad, you're gone, but sure as hell not forgotten. On behalf of J.A. Liberty and WrestleRage Cast, I'm JD Rage.
This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. The broadcast is of the Internet in voluntary cooperation with the NOAA Authority. Have developed this system to keep you informed in the event of an emergency. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. The broadcast is of the Internet in voluntary cooperation with the NOAA Authority. Have developed this system to keep you informed in the event of an emergency.